What's up, everybody? Seth here at Huff Serps. Some of you may have seen my recent social media post on my business page about a little change I was making as far as how we were keeping these guys and what we're gonna try to experiment with moving forward. So I just want to make a quick little video about it, or it might not be too quick, I don't know. Just kind of going through my thought process of how I got to this point and kind of laying out my game plan basically, and seeing if I can kind of talk myself through this madness, I guess, because I mean, I must be crazy. I'm talking about making basically half of my collection, of my fat tail collection. I'm basically cutting it in half and putting half of it in big terrariums on Bioactive, and keeping the other half how I've been keeping them for the last decade. So it's going to be an interesting journey and an interesting process, and I'm very, very intrigued to see the end result, which might not be till a year from now, to be completely honest. I mean, this is a big undertaking. I'll show y'all what I have stocked ready for this endeavor. I've got 8 40 gallons, 8 31 gallons. That is going to be the 4 stacks that I'm going to do for 16. Initially, it's just going to be 16 males that I'm going to move into those enclosures after they're all established. Just kind of see if there's a different way of doing this that's still fairly efficient, but much more enriching. And I honestly, I don't know what the end result's going to be. Maybe it's going to be better. Maybe it's going to be worse. But I don't know what the end result's going to be. I'm very excited and very nervous, as you can probably tell. But it's going to be different for sure. So we'll see. Stay tuned. I'm going to make a couple videos. I'm actually doing my first tank today, but I'm going to try to compile this and keep this a good documentation of how I do this, and a good documentation of what I observe after and as I do this with my collection. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. It's a big sample size of all already established animals that, you know, I have been keeping and know really well, and so I'll be able to identify if there's any issues or problems. So yeah, stay tuned. Should be cool. Later. So check it out. I'm gonna go through kind of my first prototype soil mixture. I have my main soil mixture that I just use for my tropical enclosures is basically an organic topsoil, like a raised bed soil is the base of it. It doesn't have any like crazy additives or anything. It's all natural stuff. And then I add some eco earth to that, and that's kind of my base soil for most of my enclosures. So I'm taking that and I'm tweaking that. So I always add a little bit of sand to that, so that's not much of a tweak, but I also added some excavator clay to it to hopefully firm it up a little bit after it's saturated and dries back out, to hopefully give it a good compact composition like they mostly experience in the wild, because they're not living on play sand or, you know, desert sand, all, you know, in their natural habitat. So this is so it was like 4 parts my soil mixture, 1 part excavator clay, and then like a half part play sand is what I'm starting with here. And this is what it looks like. It's, you know, right now it already is, you know, trying to be a little I don't know, malleable, I guess. I think once I add some moisture to it, it'll hopefully do what I'm wanting. And that's the excavator clay. I just had like half a kit left over here from a custom build I had done a while back. So I dumped that and I measured it. So it's 4 parts my soil mixture, 1 part excavator clay, and half part play sand. So we'll see how it works. Good luck. Wish me luck. Here we go. Breaking the seal on the first one. Hope these cages are worth it, man. They got good reviews. I honestly didn't like try one out though before I bought 16 of them. Or more really, because I bought a bunch of 20 gallons and 10 gallons too to be able to sell as starter kits to people. But let's see how this goes. I like the durability and I don't know, rigidness of this top. It's plastic rim, but it's got like a metal, instead of a screen, it's like a metal mesh. It's a little bit more rigid. I like it. Let's get this. Looks like a nice tank overall. I'm happy with the design. The doors function really smooth. They latch easily. Hopefully this latch has some longevity to it. Let's see why it wouldn't. And it looks like it's probably somewhat replaceable, but it's smooth. I like that. All right, so here goes, guys. Wish me luck. So first question a lot of people might have or are gonna have is, how did I get here to this spot in my life and in my collection where I've decided to add this huge change to my plate and be fairly urgent about it. And like, what brought me here? Because I've been keeping fat tails for almost a decade now. That's a pretty long time. Keeping and breeding them for like 9 years a certain way, and it's been very successful in that I've had, I'm able to grow animals out very easily. They seem happy, they eat good. But, there's also a huge crowd out there that claim that, keeping them on racks, even if it's in sizable tubs with, cork bark in there for enrichment and leaf litter in there for enrichment, which I have started doing in the last couple of years. There's an argument that even kept that way, they're not thriving as well as they would on a larger naturalistic style enclosure with a heat lamp. That's one of the main things. Not just visual light, not just UVB, but like the radiant light, the IRC, I believe it's called. That there's apparently some new information on in the last few years or whatever. So anyway, as in an effort to kind of get a decent picture in my mind of what's going on, I decided to take this on and give it a try on a pretty large scale that we'll really be able to see some indications of whether it's better or worse or the same. So that's kind of the initial why, is just out of curiosity. The more urgency of why and why I'm building this tank specifically today was a established pair that she's had for like 4 years that are assumed to be wild caught. They were, purchased at a reptile expo years ago, and she told me that they didn't do well in a rec system, that she tried it and that they didn't thrive in it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a try, because that's what I have right now available for them, and see how it goes. And initially I had them separate and they didn't eat, and then I put them together because they've been together forever, and she had told me that they got along quite well. So I put them together, and also she said he wasn't a very aggressive male, that's important. So I put them together and they start eating, and they're in a big 32 quart tub with some enrichment and everything else they need. The temps are good, and they ate for a little bit, and then they stopped eating. And so right now they're not eating for me, and so they're not thriving, and so I'm not okay with that. And so instead of just trying to get rid of them or something to somebody else, I'm kind of taking it as a personal challenge to figure out exactly what it is. So that's my urgency of it, is I need to get these guys thriving. Other than that, I've been thinking on this for probably over the last year. As I've grown as my collection has grown in size and scope, and listened to a podcast a while back about somebody talking about, keeping them differently, not just fat tails, but reptiles in general, and how more naturalistic enclosures, aren't as much upkeep once you get it set up, because the bugs are in there to eat the poop and everything, and so you don't actually have to clean them, you just have to keep them hydrated. So that's one factor that I've thought about and considered. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to keep it fairly simple. For the most part, it's going to have plenty of enrichment, but it's not going to be super, super elaborate, because I want to be able to observe these animals and make sure that they're doing well. So that's how that'll be. All right, guys, so that actually went pretty quick. I know it looked really quick in time lapse, but I think it's probably only been, I'll have to check, probably been an hour or so since I started on all this. Maybe 2. Probably more like 2. I'm adding a humid hide. Not naturalistic, but I'm hiding it so you can't see it. I need this in every enclosure no matter what, because even if I'm close to the right humidity in here, I'll be perfect in here if they need that 100% humidity. So even if you have, because think about it, in the wild, they're going to have all different ranges of humidity that they're going to exist in, probably 40 to 60 outdoors for most of the time, and then in their burrows they're going to be 60 to 100. So I want to simulate all that. I want to have 40 to 60 in the terrarium itself, with the water being on the cooler end. And then I'm going to put this humid hide on the warmer end to have that 100% spot. And I'm going to put it on the warmer end, but I'm going to put the entrance that's on the top facing the cool side, so that it's as far from the heat source as possible. And that's just to reduce the amount of evaporation that occurs, so it won't have to be hydrated quite as often. And I'm going to try to put it to where it's not super difficult to get to, but you can't really see it, so that it's not an eyesore. Because that's another goal of mine with these enclosures, is just to have a prettier display whenever you walk into my facility. I want a visually appealing front room, and I figured what better way to do that than with the species that I'm working the most with. So there. Let's see. So my plan for heat is this. I am going to use a combination of under tank heater and overhead heat lamp. And the reason that I'm using a combination of the two, for all you under tank heater haters out there, let me explain. Okay? Whenever you have an enclosure that is heated with a heat lamp, and that heat lamp shuts off at 8 p.m. or whatever time it shuts off at, and you're in a room that's, some of us keep it really cold, like 65, 60. We keep our house at 68 at home at night. Whenever it shuts off, that terrarium doesn't take very long. Even if you have a cinder block stack of hiding places underneath the heat source, even so, that enclosure is going to cool off way quicker than in the wild. So let's compare it to the termite mound that these geckos might be living in the wild. Whenever that sun goes down in West Africa, it does not drop from 90, 95 degree daytime temps, maybe even 100 plus daytime temps, to 70 degree nighttime temps in a matter of minutes. It gradually falls, and they don't even experience less than about 80 degree low temps, except for a few months out of the year during the rainy season. So if you're really trying to be as naturalistic as possible, you're going to want to maintain a good ground temp, just like the termite mounds that are getting beaten by the sun in the daytime are going to hold a lot of temperature all night long as that air temp gradually reduces. Well, we can't as perfectly, I guess I could with a DHP, but we can't as perfectly simulate that slow gradual air temp drop, but what we can simulate is that ground heat being held. And so the way that I'm doing that is with an under tank heater on the hot side, right below where the spotlight, where the heat lamp is going to be. And then I'm going to adjust the wattage of heat lamp accordingly to get the correct daytime temps in the hiding places. And then that heating pad is going to maintain near, what we call maintenance temps overnight. And so I think that effect is going to be the most naturalistic and the most realistic and the most effective way of keeping this method. So that's what I'm going to do now. I did not put my under tank heater yet because I wanted to wait and see where my hiding places ended up, because I wasn't sure exactly how it would all play out, being this is the first one I'm doing. And I'll probably tweak it a little bit from this one, but this is a good start. And I'll show y'all in a minute how it came out. But first, I'm going to get this under tank heater on here, if I can find it there. And I'm actually putting a 10 to 20 gallon under tank heater on this 40 gallon tank because, again, this is not my primary heat source in this method of keeping. This is going to be an alternate heat source that is more of a supplemental heat source rather than a primary heat source. So I'm using a 10 to 20 gallon heater. That way it's just that one little area right here under the hot hide, near the humid hide, that I'm going to be maintaining that nighttime temp on, and hopefully that is enough to keep these guys properly. We shall see. Let's see if I can move this around. I'm going to just hang the enclosure off of the table a little bit. Grab some alcohol real quick. It's important to make sure you have a nice clean surface when you're using these under tank heaters because they have adhesive. But if you stick it on something that's full of oils or any of that junk. And I am going to start, keep in mind I don't have animals in here and won't have animals in here for a while. I'm going to start running this under tank heater unregulated, just plug straight into the wall, because of the way that I have this set up with a lot of substrate that they cannot dig down through with that barrier layer. So there's several inches that this heat has to travel through before it gets to where the animals will be. So I'm going to try it unregulated and see what temps that gives me in that hot spot, and then I'm going to tweak it from there. Alright, under tank heater. That evil under tank heater is attached. And I'm actually going to go ahead and plug that in so that it can start warming up, because I want to test this tank fairly soon and see what it's looking like. Let's see, that one's on a timer. Alright, under tank heater is plugged in and attached. Alright, that is good. Now we're going to get a heat lamp set up on there. And we're going to start with a 50 watt. Keep it about 78 degrees in this room, 24/7. So I don't know if this is going to be enough or not, but it's a starting point. and we will adjust accordingly. Boom. I suspect that's not going to be enough wattage, but we're going to see how it goes. All right. I think, let's see, humid hod, hot hod, cool hod, water dish. Don't have food dish in there yet, but we'll get to that. Well, these geckos eat crickets anyway, so no need for a food dish on these particular geckos. I need a UVB lamp that I gotta get. I'm gonna throw an LED on it for now, just for viewing purposes. Steal from my iguana cage. All right. Well, I gotta admit, it looks pretty dope. You ready to check it out? Now, let me take off this dirty glove. All right. What you think? So we've got a little hide back there. That's going to be a fairly warm zone, but not the hottest. Then their hottest hide will be underneath this cork right here, because the under tank heater is about right here, which is directly below the heat lamp. So this whole zone right here should be the hottest area. Humid hide is hiding back there, easy to get into for them, fairly easy to get into for me, and you can barely see it. Had this cool idea that a buddy of mine does with his tanks, where you do them vertical, you just have to cut them just the right length. And then obviously the plants will grow in. There's the water dish and plenty of cool hides here and underneath that. So there it is, a 40-gallon bio. I'm gonna let it dry out a little bit. I did oversaturate it on purpose for the plants to get started well and for that soil to kind of compact if it will do so like I want it to. But this is the prototype. This is the first of what will be many to try a different method with these guys. So wish me luck.